The Gauteng Provincial government will be delivering their midterm budget. The province accounts for over 30% of the country's GDP. SABC News reporter Nosipho Radebe is covering this story for us. Nosipho, good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Leanne, and to the viewers at home. Well, later on today or this morning, we will be hearing from Gauteng Economic and Finance MEC Gauteng Provincial, who will be tabling the province's medium-term budget policy statement as well as the adjusted budget. And this is essentially a roadmap for the province in terms of its financial priorities going into the financial year. We know, of course, that the medium-term budget policy statement is not a full budget that we can expect later on or next year essentially, but this is just a sort of roadmap to the priorities that we can expect going into the financial year next year, as well as the adjusted budget, which is more of a sort of talking to us about some of the unexpected financial pressures that may have emerged during the year from the tabling of this year's budget. We know that $500 billion budget was tabled earlier this year, over $500 billion. And that, of course, we'll hear from the province then today whether some of the priorities that were on track earlier this year remain on track, whether there are any changes to the financial picture that we saw earlier this year, and of course whether there are any pressures and how the department or how the province plans to adjust to those pressures or deal with those pressures. Certainly we know that at this time of the year we do see increased rainfall, and that has the effect then of displacing some settlements, residents in the province, and those are the type of pressures that they will need to deal with when it comes to the adjusted budget or any sort of unforeseen circumstances that may emerge. But we do expect, or we aren't expecting too much deviation from the earlier budget that was tabled earlier this year, similar to the national budget, where we saw the medium-term budget policy statement was more of a positive sign, showing some of the positive signs that were coming through from the economy. We know that this medium-term budget policy statement also comes at a critical time for the province, having recently hosted the G20 Leaders Summit. So we'll see whether some of those positive gains have filtered through, whether those projections that had been set out, whether we meet the target or surpass the target then essentially. But of course we've been seeing some positive signs nationally, and whether those filter through into the provincial government is some of the signs we'll be looking for. We know that we've been removed off the Financial Action Task Force grey list. The S&P Global has also increased our rating with a positive outlook, and so those are just some of the positives, as well as interest rates coming down, easing some of the pressure on households in the province or nationally at least. And of course, inflation also easing quite a bit, so that reducing some of the pressure that we're seeing on households. But Gauteng, of course, is the economic hub of the country. So what this budget, or what comes out of this medium-term budget policy statement, will be important for, of course, nationally, the national picture. But of course, we'll be looking to see, in terms of the growth picture, whether the province is still on track to meet its priorities when it comes to growth and service delivery, because we know that infrastructure in particular is one of the major challenges. Gauteng, as I mentioned, being an economic hub, we see a lot of people coming into the province for work opportunities, and that of course adds more pressure in terms of service delivery as well as on the infrastructure. But earlier we saw education and health got the lion's share of the budget, so we'll be looking out to any changes that we can see in this budget going forward. And of course, for now, it is back to you, Leanne, over in studio.
All right, thanks so much. We'll cross in with you a little bit later on in the program for another update on that story.